Howdy there, folks. My name is Janaki.
And this is Madame Bathsheba.
And together we are Catomancy Tarot. So today, on this rainy spring afternoon, I was feeling like I wanted to do like a big juicy tag. And so I was going through the archive of all of the tags I've missed out on. And I remember Marlene's Tarot to the Extremes. So this is going to be a VR to her. And she had, if you recall, last fall, I think is when this tag went around, two parts of Tarot to the Extremes where you're looking at kind of two different, different oppositions within your collection. And I thought it was a really cool series. And I'm going to try and do both part one and part two in this video. So it might be a little bit of a long one, so buckle up. I just felt like doing a fun, juicy tag. So I've got them all written down here. And so we're gonna take you through 13 different tarot oppositions. So here we go. Alrighty, folks. So our first set of oppositions that we have here is Minimalist versus Maximalist. So my Minimalist deck, is wedged in there, is the Personal Oracle by the Dark Exact, Coleman Stevenson. And this is just a cute little oracle deck. And it's kind of just black and white, very simplistic illustrations. And the thing that's really fun about this deck is the guidebook is kind of left blank. And you're invited to fill in your own meanings for each of these symbols. And they're all just really cute. I love the illustration style. I love the kind of directness of this oracle. I think it's a really good reader. And it's just very minimalist. And I like that a lot of the objects are kind of like mundane or the kind of more fortune tellery type symbols, plus a lot of kind of things from the natural world. And this is the second edition I have here. The first edition is a little bit smaller and came in a tin, but this is my minimalist guy. So that is the Personal Oracle. So we'll set that to the side. And my Maximalist is a big one. So this is, it barely fits in the frame here. This is the Draxiotos Tarot by Greg Traub. And it's a big old one. It's a big old one. It's a collage deck. And it's quite large. And the images, as you can see, are kind of very intricate. And it's the cards almost have to be this large in order to see all of the details and all of everything that's going on. And this is a deck that is also kind of a very esoteric deck. So you kind of have to like know this deck to even decipher which cards are which. So this is green, so you know it's the suit of coins, and then hidden here you have the 4, so you know this is the 4 of coins, and you can also check the different kind of hidden astrological symbols in here. But this is tarot to this is a maximalist version of tarot, and as I mentioned in a recent video, I don't use this deck for divination, but I use it rather for, I use it on my altar a lot, so it makes a really lovely backdrop to my altar. So that is my maximalist choice, and then we can kind of see, one thing I like that Marlene did is the little bit of a side-by-side here, which is kind of fun. It's kind of fun to have the two next to each other. All right, so that is the Minimalist and the Maximalist. Next up, we have daytime versus nighttime. So my daytime deck is the Runners of the Sun. I thought this would be an appropriate pick for a daytime deck. It's very, the backs and the box are kind of very, very sunshiny. They've got this nice little rainbow thing going on. And it's a collage oracle deck. And it's, I think, I don't, sometimes I do tarot. I'll do a 3-card pull at the start of the day, and if I'm doing kind of like a bigger reading, I will do that usually in the evenings. But I don't really, in my own kind of usage of tarot, I don't super distinguish like decks I only use during the day and decks I only use at night, but I do have some, like this one, that just feel kind of like bright and energizing. And it's, yeah, this is a one that's kind of newer in my collection, and I figured it would be a good choice for the daytime and nighttime. And then my nighttime deck that I decided to pick, something, you know, sometimes if I'm doing a nighttime reading, the lights will be dim and there will be candles. So one of my criteria for picking a nighttime deck is it's gotta look good under candlelight. And so my pick for this one is the Abyssal Tarot. This is one of my faves. I've showed it on my channel before, but it is a underwater photography deck. And it feels like very intimate and very emotional. And so this is a deck that if I kind of want to get into, unpack my feelings, unpack some, you know, dive into some emotions, this is kind of this is a me in my bed, get out the silk cloth and a candle and do some reading. So that's my pick for nighttime. So let's see if they're friends, if our two extremes are friends. I've never used them before. Oh, look at that. That's kind of a fun combo. Maybe. I'm actually, I never thought of using these together actually. But I don't hate it. I don't hate it. So yeah, that's my choices for daytime and nighttime. Our next two categories are best and worst shuffle. All right, so best shuffle I'm gonna give to Artisan Tarot decks, and this is a newer deck. This is the Tarot of Ambiguities, and they use this nice linen cardstock, and it's the shuffle is so nice. Ready? Let's do some shuffles here. Here we go. Right? It's just it's a delight. It's very slidey. It's got a nice shuffle on it. And so this is Artisan Tarot makes a lot of Marseille decks, and I'm a big fan of Marseille. And so this is the one that I picked for my best shuffle. It's the kind of cardstock that, you know, the cards are gonna hold up really well. It's just very, very usable, very good. Yeah, I dig it. So that's my best shuffle. And then my worst shuffle is a vintage deck. My box for this one kind of fell apart on me. But this is the Piatnik Wien from 1974. And I found that like Piatnik's vintage decks, the cards are like It feels like cardboard. Like it doesn't feel like a card. It feels like the backs especially feel just like cardboard. And so I don't like that because it makes me feel like the cards are very fragile, and they can't kind of take a beating too much. And like I got this, used, and the feelings on the sides, it feels like a little fluffy. When cardboard starts to get a little a little fluffy on the side. It's a beautiful deck. But it's what, in addition to the cardstock being very thick, very cardboardy, it's also like not, I have fairly large hands, but I can't quite get my hands around it and then it's really stiff, so it doesn't, it doesn't work. And so the only way to shuffle it, and it's a old copy, so the cards are really quite bowed as well, and I've tried to kind of flatten them out. It's a mess, and so I can't overhand it this way, but you have to overhand the long ways. And there's some decks out there that are kind of this dimension, and overhanding the long way is kind of the only way to do it. So that's my worst shuffle. That's my worst shuffle. But here they are together to see if they would be friends. Just because that's a fun part of this exercise is, would they be friends? And I don't know, this, incidentally, this feels like kind of a very dark and moody deck. It's a humorous deck, but it's kind of like a little bit of a dark sense of humor. And this is kind of like a very light, there's humor in this one as well, I would say. But this is kind of more of the lighthearted. So it's an interesting pair. Interesting pair. Yeah. So that is my best and worst shuffle. So next up we have confronting versus comforting. So my confronting decks, I'm gonna show you guys two decks for confronting, but it's the same author. And so my confronting decks are my Barbara Walker decks. So I have her Oracle, which comes in this terribly large container, very awkward. And this is a I Ching Oracle. And then I also have her Tarot in a Tin, which is one of my all-time faves. But as you can see, her images are a little bit, I love them so much, but the Barbara Walker Tarot in particular, I think partially because of the keywords, has a reputation for being kind of like I don't want to say a meanie, but a little bit of, confronting. I think that's the word I'm looking for. But I love the artwork so much. But this is like, I do use this deck if I like really need to cut to the chase on something. I like how spooky it is. Like the keywords for this lady are abyss, water, and danger. Yeah, I'm here for it. The I Ching of the Goddess Oracle is out of print, but I found mine for like $13 on eBay, which was a major score for me. But yeah, Barbara Walker is my confronting deck. And then I had two of these two of these for confronting. So, I also had to have two of them for comforting because I always use them as a pair. So I'm going to cheat a little bit here. And my two most comforting decks are the Spolia Tarot and the Road to Nowhere Oracle. Now, both of these are out of print, sadly, but they are my all-time favorite decks. I got the Spolia was my first indie deck ever. I got it back in 2018. Road to Nowhere I got like maybe like the summer afterwards. So I've had them for a really long time. And just like seeing, I love these backs both so much, and just like seeing these backs together instantly make me feel at home, and they're so comforting and so gentle. Despolia's little white book is was really instrumental in me kind of learning the tarot meanings, and it can be, it's not all gentle, but the kind of writing style, and they're both collage decks, and uh, I love them so much, especially this oracle. I feel like if everything's feeling like too much, if I'm really, really overwhelmed and I can't handle like a big fat Barbara Walker style, like if I don't want any of that kind of scrutiny, but I just need a little bit of comfort, a little bit of softness, then this is the oracle deck that I reach for when like everything else feels like too intense. And so these are my all-time faves. And so they're my comfort decks. They're my comfort decks. And I think if we make room here, I do. I think I actually got these two at a similar time. But I don't usually use them together. But I think they could be cute. It would definitely be, it would feel like a really, I don't know, a very kind of meaningful reading to use these guys together. But yeah, even though Barbara Walker is very confronting, it's confronting in a comforting way, I guess. I don't know. So that's that for that category. Let's just kind of clean up here. So the next category is everyday versus every so often. So my everyday deck is this cute little collage number. This is the Adapt Tarot. And I picked it because this is a deck that I've increasingly just been reaching for everyday kind of readings. Doing readings for myself, or it reads really well for others. And I have a full walkthrough of this video if you're curious to hear my thoughts or see more of it. But I think it reads really well. It's got a nice mixture of like modern versus ancient feeling, nature versus there's like a lot of natural elements. I've joked before that this feels like the 90s eyewitness style white backgrounds with these different kind of images. But I really enjoy how it reads. And so it's just kind of like a everyday kind of workhorse style deck for me. And I'll use it. I think it's good for a lot of different types of readings. I could have said, I don't know, I think I could have also chosen something like the Spolia or Ritual Tarot. Those are kind of like my main, I love collage decks, and those are kind of like my main readers. I could have also chosen like RWS or Marseille deck, but no, this is my everyday deck. And then my every so often deck is the specialist deck in my collection. And that's the Kazanlar deck. This is a very out of print deck. I was like very lucky to kind of find it out there in the world. And this is This is an every so often deck because it is so special. And so for me, it kind of like really kind of, if I need like a big, big time, very kind of meaningful reading, this is the deck that I'll reach for. I've been using it more recently, but it still feels like a every so often uh, don't need to kind of, it's a very, I don't know, overpowered deck. I guess that doesn't really make sense. But yeah, I love it. I love it so much. I think it's very beautiful. So let's see how they look together. And I actually recently I have been using these guys together, and I think they go really well. Something about the maybe in the kind of like busyness of the images, but I think they're a fun pair. My everyday and every so often. Yeah, so that is the Adapt Tarot and the Kazanlar Tarot. All right, the next category is a little spicy. It's the overrated versus underrated category. And I'm going to approach this one a little bit differently. I'm going to say, instead of specific decks, I'm going to say systems. So for me, and this, controversial, overrated, I have right here, I have the Rider-Waite Smith, and I have my Thoth deck. And I mean, are they overrated, or are they just that iconic? And yes, they are super iconic. Everyone's got them. Very important for tarot history, but at the same time, I don't know. Modern tarot can be so much more, and I think I think they're a little overrated. For example, with the Rider-Waite Smith, I think it's really easy for this to become the only system that people know. And then you have endless Rider-Waite Smith clones, and I think that's I'm not knocking it, but I think that there's sometimes knowing only one thing really too well. Sometimes that it just, to me, it feels like a little bit limiting, and yeah, I'm not gonna say too much more. I think that's fair. And then with the Thoth, I think it's a deck that has like a huge kind of reputation, and my personal opinion is it's like it's not that esoteric. I mean, it is, but I think there's ways that, I don't know, you can really fall into the you do have you have the decans here, you have like the hermetic, the keyword that's related to the hermetic title. Like I understand it, but like when I first got this deck, I thought it was gonna be, I don't know. I think it has a bigger reputation than my experience of actually working with it has. I don't know. I don't think I'm explaining it well, but I mean, these are the two big systems, right? Two big systems. So if these are the kind of like overrated system, then what's the underrated system? And I'm just gonna plug I'm gonna plug Terre de Marseille, and I'm also gonna plug just pip decks in general. I think pip decks and historical tarot are a lot more kind of, they're underrated. And something like Marseille, I think picking up a Marseille is a really great way to start learning how to read with pips. And I think having a numerical understanding of the minors kind of really opens up reading styles for me. And I think paying attention to things like directionality, and then when you do have people in the reading, yeah, I just think studying the Tarot de Marseille really helped my reading in general in ways that I wasn't getting from just the RWS or Thoth alone. And then, you know, using skills you pick up from reading Marseille decks or historical kind of decks, I think are then kind of very applicable to other kinds of decks. So we'll get into some, you know, this is a collage pip deck. And I think it's really fun, and it's a little bit it's not you know, it's pips with feeling, right? But it's still very pippish, and I really like pip decks. So yeah, so I'm championing the Marseille system and pip decks. And then calling the two main systems overrated, just because I don't know. That's what I'm gonna say for that. All right, moving along before I get myself into any more trouble. The next category is lightwork versus shadowwork. And this isn't really a category of, like, I don't think of my decks this way. That's not something that I kind of really use in my practice, but I'm going with it. I'm going with it. So if I think about light work, I'm going to take that like quite literally and think about like if I wanted to interact with, you know, light waves and light as a thing. So my choice was tarot as color, because color is light. You know, color is all about light reflecting differently on our, you know, rods and cones and brain waves and light waves and science, man. I used to be in another life. It was this life, but in another life before I was a sad graduate student. I was a lighting designer for theater. But so I learned a lot about like color theory for lighting, which is like different from color theory that you learn for kind of more visual arts. So that was really fun. But this deck, this is like, I love this deck so much. Tarot's Color by Ethel Calhoun, this deck was painted in the 70s. She was a surrealist painter and a practicing occultist. And you know, it's all about light and color and movement for me in this deck, and I love it so much. This is like, I'll use this deck frequently for different kinds of like altar work. I mentioned in one of my last videos. And yeah, you know, interacting with light and color. So that is my choice for light work. And then in terms of shadow work, I kind of, again, took it, you know, maybe quite literally. And so my choice for this is the Gothic Tarot, which is a out-of-print majors only deck by Layla Wendell. And then this is the Graven Images Oracle, and I use them together because they feel like such a natural pair to me. And because this is a majors only deck, so it doesn't have that many cards to begin with. But they're both, they both make use of cemetery photography. So this feels like a very, very shadowy deck. The Oracle reads so well. It has, you'll notice in the corners here, it has these different letters which are referred to different suits. And then within each of the suits, I think you have something like 7 like positive keywords and 7 like more negative keywords. And I think it makes it like a really balanced reader. And yeah, I love it so much. I think it's really fun. But it is kind of it's a little bit more of your stereotypical, I guess, shadow style deck. So let's see. I'm not sure it's gonna go super well with our Ethel Colquhoun. I think I'm not sure about it. I don't know. What do you guys think? Can they be friends? I think the thing about tarot is color is like color goes with everything. So I think it could go, and it makes certain things like pop. Like with this one, it feels like the kind of clouds become this clouds, and then you have like the popping blue in each of them, which I think is actually kind of interesting. I don't know. I would have never kind of thought to use these together, but you do have that's something that's always fun is when you're using multiple decks together, you get these like synchronicities that you would have never have thought of, like this radiating red patch here. Interesting. Ooh la la. Okie dokie. So that is our light work versus shadow work. And let's get these guys all put away nicely here. Next up on our whirlwind tour, we have modern versus vintage. So I have a lot of modern decks and I have a lot of vintage decks, and I could only choose one for each, or I decided to only choose one for each. And I thought I'd choose these just because I thought they might actually be friends. So let's see. For modern, I chose the Apparition Tarot, which is a Spirit Speak deck by Mary Evans. And it is one of my favorite examples of what I like to call doodle decks. Ooh, this one's, I must have put this in order a while ago. I have no memory of doing that. It happens. But this is, I really do love this deck. And I think it's got some really fun interpretations, especially among the majors. But I feel like doodle decks are very modern. And they're kind of fun. So it's a little bit pippish, but there's a lot of some of them kind of draw out the meanings in fun and interesting ways. So I thought that this would be my my modern deck. And then for my vintage, there was a bunch of them to choose from, but the one I went with is ultimately this one, which is the Diva Tarot by Piotnik, and I believe this was published in like 1986, I believe. So this deck, speaking of terrible cardstock, this has the same like awful cardboardy stock. Like I like to, because of the size of this, sometimes it feels like a deck full of beer coasters, and then I get really worried that something's gonna, someone's gonna set their beer on one of these cards, which is an unreasonable fear. But this is actually, I mean, I love the hair and the glam, and all of these people. Like, what? Who are they? Who are they? So it's fun and a little bit quirky. And this is actually a Thoth clone, believe it or not. So once we get into the pips, so we have the unicursal hexagram kind of thing going on, and then you'll notice that it doesn't have the keywords, but it is like a pip style Thothy deck. And it does have a fifth suit, which is called the triaxes, and that's just all sorts of weird. But let's see. I kind of felt that these decks might have a little bit of kinship going on here. So let's see. So we've got our magicians. I don't know. I think it's kind of fun. What do you guys think? Are they friends? I think they might be friends. Look at that orange and purple. That's cool. I don't know what's going on in this card, but I love it. This has always been one of the cards that I've loved the most from this deck. Yeah. I've never thought to use these together before, but as I was coming up with this, I was just like, this might be an interesting contrast. All right, so that's a fun experiment. So that was the Apparition Tarot, along with the Diva Tarot. Moving right along here, up next we have New Moon versus Full Moon. We just had a New Moon. And my choice for New Moon is actually the Vitriolic Tarot, which is another Majors Only. This is also by the Dark Exact, the same woman who made the Minimalist deck I showed you. And I think this could also work as a Minimalist deck. You can see a lot of the illustrations here. But notice how this card has some like smudgy stuff on it. I don't know if it's showing up, but there's some definite like smudges and smears. That's because I use this deck kind of talismanically, and so I'll use this for altar work where I might, depending on what the occasion is, I might use these different quadrants here to kind of like set an icon or a talisman or like a crystal or a doodad, and put some other kind of like crystal matrix work type stuff on here, or use it to kind of like charge an object with intention. So that all feels like new moon intention setting kind of stuff. So I will use this sometimes in readings, but more often I use it very talismanically, or I use it to kind of like charge other objects with intention. And so that's why it's my new moon guy. My new moon guy. And then for my full moon guy, this is a deck that's newer to me, but it just felt right. Look, it's round like the moon, and it just feels like I don't know, I'm using my intuition on this one and just saying it feels It feels very full moon. It feels like a deck that it's kind of it has an ecological bent. And the guidebook is really wonderful. Look, the snake encircles the moon. Excellent. Excellent. So here's another moon here, a moon with a rhino. I love the tiles in this deck. I think they're really exquisite, and I feel like it feels like I don't know. It engenders a sense of fulfillment or fullness or things coming to fruition. So that's kind of why I chose it for this category. And let's go ahead and see. Will they be friends? And while both of these decks are kind of a little bit more simplistic, but sometimes I was going to say there's a lot of white space, and then I get a card with no white space. But I think it's an interesting combo. I don't too much mind the like rectangle with next to circle. I wouldn't have really thought to pair. Again, this isn't a pairing that I've ever thought of before, but I think it's an interesting one. Let's see here. We've got Mercury, and your pinky turns into a bird. What could that mean? I don't know, guys. So yeah, that is my new moon versus full moon. We just have 4 more categories here, and next up we have cute versus creepy. So for my cute deck, I don't have a lot of like cutesy decks. And I realized when I was searching through my collection that that's a category that's almost entirely missing. But this is my newest deck. My last video I filmed was a walkthrough of it. It is called the Trickster's Journey. And it's this amazing new mass market watercolor deck. And it's beautiful, and there's lots of critters. And I think the critters are really cute. I think the story of this deck is also very sweet. It centers around Monkey the Trickster, who's going through this journey. And I like it a lot, and I think that maybe this isn't like it's the closest thing I have to cute in my collection. I think the energy of this deck is kind of very gentle and very sweet. And then you've got some critters, and the critters are really cute. And I love all of the court cards. I think the court cards in this are so good. And I love them. And I think they're pretty cute. I think they're pretty cute. A phoenix and a dragon and another phoenix. Let's see if I can find my favorite cute guy. I mean, there's a lot of good guys, a lot of really good guys. But this guy, look at his hat. Look at his hat. Those boots, so cute. I think it's really cute. So that's my choice for cute deck. And then in terms of creepy, I went for a really weird deck. It's out of print. It's called the Tapestry Tarot by Yvonne Jensen. I don't quite remember when it's from, but this is a collage deck made from fabric, but it ends up looking like a lot of the characters are puppets or dolls. And some of them are somewhat unsettling. So here we're looking at a bunch of the majors. And I do think that there's something about this deck that I find very beautiful and very compelling, but there's a little bit of uncanniness in this deck for me, and I think the uncanny comes from the weird mimesis of dolls. Like, look, they're covered in just, that's just hair. That's just hair. This is the devil card. And I did trim this deck significantly to make it more readable, but this is my creepy deck. It's a weird one, but very fun. It's very fun. So again, another pairing that I would never in a million years have thought about. Feels weird. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know about this. Look at those tiny little hands and those big sleeves. Now this feels cute and this feels creepy. Oh, I don't know. I don't know. But that is the cute and creepy combo I had for you guys. I don't think I would use these guys in a reading. I think that's enough exploration of that. Okie dokie. All right, next up we have on my table versus in my bag. So if I understand this one correctly, I think it's all about portability, right? So 2 honorable mentions of like in my bag decks. I just wanted to shout out to Noble. Nobles are they're so cute. They're the littlest of the Marseilles, and so this one's from Artisan, and this is from Peterson. And I alternate between them, and I just like throwing them in my bags and taking them places. But for my main choices for this one, I thought this would be an interesting pair. So on my table, I have Daydreaming in Situ, and then in my bag, I have the Careful Tarot, and these are both collage decks. And I actually haven't seen these together yet, and I think they're gonna go really well together. But we'll start off with the on my table. So I've had this deck out in my basket on my table here since I first got it, which wasn't that long ago. And it is a collage deck, and it's quite beautiful and very textured and layered. It's a deck that kind of engages with a lot of art history. This is my favorite card in the whole deck because you have that little poppy lime green bird that just feels like it ties the whole image together, and it's so good. I don't know if I can explain it, but yeah, this is a indie collage deck. The cardstock is it's the kind of matte where the cards stick together a little bit. And it doesn't have like too much of a protective coating, so this doesn't feel like an adventure deck that I would haul around with me out in the world. So this is my like stay at home on the table deck. But on the other side of things, we have the Careful Tarot, which is just this little guy here. This deck is out of print, but I got it many years ago. I've had this deck for a long time, and for a couple years it just like lived in my bag, so it's a little bit gross and worn because it was my purse deck for a couple years. And it's this little collage number, and I really think it's quite fun. It's yeah, this was my go-to like little adventure deck. Take to coffee shops, do spontaneous readings for folks. It's been around the world with me. So this is my cute little pocket collage deck. And because of the style of collage, I think they might be interesting to look at together, and I've been meaning to kind of do that, and I haven't done that yet, so we're doing it now. And I think I really dig it. Especially, I think, so in the Careful Tarot, this deck was also survived a flood in India with me. So it's, some of the cards have water damage, but the black borders go with these black borders on the majors, which is kind of fun. I think it's pretty fun. I think it would be fun to do kind of like a big reading using these cards together. I'm gonna have to investigate that further. Ooh, especially this. Ah, these look so good together. You've got that textured yellow sky with that pop of blue and that kind of landscape happening. I like that a lot. Ooh la la, I dig it. I dig it. Cool, cool. Yeah, I think these guys are gonna be BFFs after this for sure. Our next category is realistic versus fantastical or fanciful, or realism versus fantasy, basically. And I realize I don't have any like straight up realism decks. I don't know. I think along with like cute decks, this one took me a while to kind of think of something for it. And what I came up with is the Guided Hand Tarot. And I don't think all the cards in the deck are this way, but for some of them, I feel like there's some like very, real looking people doing real things, except it's a little bit, it's not super modern. So some of the people feel, to me, this is a really, really nostalgic deck. And it feels like all of these people are in kind of like family portrait or like, family photos kind of realism. I think a better choice for this would be maybe like something like the Aquamarine. But I don't have that deck, so I kind of picked this one. But this isn't realism as like the nitty-gritty kind of realism. This is still a very like soft, gentle, pastel, nostalgic kind of realism. So I'm not super happy with that as a choice for realism, but that's what I came up with. But I do have a really good choice for the fantastical, and that's this deck. And this is a Russian deck called the like Magical Tarot of Destiny. And it's fantasy art. I actually if I remember, I can put the words on the screen, but I remember when I first showed this deck, someone in the comments helped me identify the artist, and it's this couple who does all of this art. And it's high fantasy, and I love it so much. I love this like tree person thing happening. You've got, I don't mind that it's in Russian. It's still like readable for me. So we've got a unicorn butterfly, science fiction maiden going on. It's very it's very retro sci-fi fantasy, and I'm a sci-fi fantasy nerd. And so I love this deck so much. It just brings me a lot of joy. Brings me so much joy. So let's see. Will they be good together? I don't know. Let's see here. I'm not feeling it. What do you guys think? I don't think there's, maybe? I'm not sold. I'm not sold on this combo. But yep, not sold. I don't think we're gonna be doing that. But that is realism versus fantasy. So the very last category is quiet versus loud. So for this one, I actually picked 2 quiet decks. Let me get a hold of them over here. Oh, come on over here. So my 2 quiet decks are decks that I reach for when I need help quieting the mind. So the first one I'm going to show you is this one, which is the Yantra Wisdom deck. So yantras are very specific types of mandalas, and each yantra has like very specific kind of like a geometric pattern. Shukra, this is the Venus yantra. And so there's like a very specific geometry to each of these. So you'll have the planetary yantras, which I'm going through right now. And then here you have the different chakras. And then you get into, you know, you also here we've got the yantras for all the Mahavidyas, which are different wisdom goddesses in Hinduism. So I've taken to having a crack at painting some of my own yantras. So let's see if we have a look here. And I found it to be one of the best ways to like completely quiet the mind. So this is my Venus yantra that I did a while ago, and I did it all with watercolors. And yeah, so that's something that I do that helps quiet the mind, something that's very meditative. And then in a similar vein, here we've got the Yogini's Oracle, and this is a deck that I like to pair with sort of yoga asana type practices, but the yoginis, there's 64 yoginis, and the guidebook for this offers different kind of like meditative sadhanas for each of them. And this is another deck that actually feels very meditative, helps me quiet the mind. So that was my choice for quiet. And then loud. It took me a second to think about this one, but my eventual choice for this one is the Telesma Tarot by Tara Cochrane. And this feels, I guess, visually, this feels loud. And so for me, I had to distinguish loud from the maximalist category that we kind of started with. I think this is also a maximalist collage deck, and funny enough, I know Tara and Greg, the creators of these decks, are friends IRL, which is very cute. Both maximalist collage decks, but I think that there's something very like crackling and energetic about this deck, and I feel like some of the cards, like you can hear the waterfall or like the clinking ice in the glass in some of them. Yeah, there's this kind of these lightning flashes or this like sonic, I don't know. It feels like a loud kind of frenetic type deck. So that's why I went for that one. So let's see if they would be friends. I haven't used these together before, but they're both very colorful decks, which is interesting. I'm not hating it, but I feel like the kind of like energy of these decks are kind of very different. Like I would use these decks for very different things. So even if they make, you know, there's some overlaps kind of visually, I don't know if I would use these in a reading together. See this? See, that's a loud card, right? There's like there's the lightning, thunder, the feline roar. yeah, so that is my choice for loud and quiet. So thank you guys for joining me on this long whirlwind of a video. We'll see if I break it up into part 1 and part 2. Probably keep them together. But yeah, I was in the mood for a fun, kind of silly, longer, juicy tag. So thanks for sticking around if you're still here. And I will see you all next time. Bye for now.